Hi, I'm Jamila Jones. I'm the host of 2 Minute Topics. It's a pop culture and politics show. And on today's show, we will be talking about Chrissy Teigen and whether she's really being canceled for all the bullying that she's been doing. In addition, we'll be talking about Kamala Harris and her recent comments on immigration, Guatemala, etc., etc. Okay, so before we get started, don't forget to like this channel and subscribe. And also, don't forget to hit the notifications button. And one more thing, let me know how you like this new head wrap. I'm loving it, but I'm curious to know what you think. It feels good on my head. That's all I can tell you. So, Chrissy Teigen. It seems like the chickens have finally come to roost. Now, I have, in all fair disclosure, I have never been a fan of Chrissy Teigen. So it just strikes me as interesting that she's finally getting called out for some of her less than favorable comments. Okay, but not just comments, she actually bullied a girl. She intentionally tortured this woman in her Twitter DMs, telling her to kill herself. And only because the girl was 16 years old and she married a man who was maybe 4 times her senior. He was in his 50s, let's put it that way. So Chrissy, that's literally the only thing that this woman did, this child did, is she married a man who was 50 years old. Like, that hasn't been done in this country. Like, Chrissy probably maybe have dated older men when she was younger. But I digress. So finally, the woman spoke up, used her voice, which was good. I'm glad she did that. And talked about it and really aired the pain that she had. And so Chrissy Teigen is facing a lot of backlash right now. She has had dropped endorsements. She is losing jobs left and right. She is persona non grata. People do not want to be associated with her. Even Joe Biden took her off the list to get to the White House. How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
Oh my God. So, especially considering how hard she went, from last year's election and how she basically tortured Donald Trump and how in support she was of Joe Biden. People have to understand when you start supporting these politicians, you have to know they will turn on you. They are only their self-interest is the only thing that matters to them. So if she thought that she could bully people, if she thought that she could, go unchecked, and that Joe Biden would stand by her, she had another thing coming. Well, she learned today, okay? So, but let me just tell you some backstory on why I have never been a fan of Chrissy Teigen. Years ago, she would get on several different entertainment channels, entertainment shows like Extra and Access Hollywood. And for me, it was very cringy how she would talk about John Legend in such a way that was, like as if to say she was too good to be with him. That was the overarching comments that she would make. Now, I'm sure that maybe part of it was joking, but to be honest, it was a little bit too much. Like, it was all the time. I remember she made a comment like, I'm paraphrasing here, that, he was lucky to have her. This man, even back then, was a force to be reckoned with in the music industry. Like, He wasn't an EGOT. He didn't have his Emmy, I don't think, but I believe he had his Grammy. So he was no schlub, okay? He, was clearly talented, good looking. He had everything going for him. And here, this model who did a couple of Sports Illustrated was on TV just, she sort of undercut him in a way. That's how I felt anyway. He may have laughed it off. I mean, maybe that's their sense of humor, but I tell people this all the time. I tell couples, I guide them, advise them. If you, as a couple, have that kind of biting wit, that nagging sort of, biting. That's the only way I can think of it. If that is the approach that you have as a love language, so to speak, for your significant other, keep that at home. That is not for the general public to see. It's understandable. I'm not saying that she should not have done it. She just could have done that at home. At a dinner party in her home, those are the kind of comments you might make. You don't make them in front of millions of people. And I remember looking at her like, girl, what? You're too good for him? Okay. All right. So even back then, her mouth was just too much for me. Fast forward to the Oscars. Some years ago, there was a young girl who I will never forget, I saw in the theater, named Quavenzhane Wallis. And this girl gave such a masterful performance. I mean, chef's kiss performance. So much so that during me watching the movie, I forgot it was a movie. My brain clicked on and thought it was a documentary. Like, I'm thinking during the movie that this was real life. Like, this girl is facing.
The whole universe depends on everything fitting together just right. If one piece busts, even the smallest piece, the entire universe will get busted.
The struggle. She gave a wonderful performance. And the Academy members thought so too, so they nominated her. Well, Miss, I'm better than my husband, and daggone sure better than this 9-year-old, starts bullying a child, a 9-year-old accomplished child, called her the C word. And I mean, not cookies. I mean, rhymes with punt. A child, a black little girl who did nothing to Chrissy. And she never got checked for it. I mean, there were a couple of people online, but they were mostly silenced. Okay. So then, to me, she was canceled then. I was done with Chrissy even back then. Whatever year that was the day. She could not say nothing to me. So now she's finally getting her comeuppance, as my grandmama used to say. And it's long overdue. She should have been canceled a long time ago. And the fact that John Legend, I know that's her husband, and he's, anytime I've seen them in an interview, he loves her. He's not going anywhere. He loves her. He's going to love her through whatever mess she got herself into. But I think that he probably enabled a lot of it, because he would laugh stuff off that she would say right in front of him. So I think he was her enabler in a lot of these comments, because I know if she's on Twitter, I know she took a lot of that anger home. I know she did. And he probably just dismissed it. So, John, please have several seats. I love you. And you are not ordinary people. But honey, have several seats. You know, come get your wife. Get your wife now. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, she deserved to be canceled. She deserved to be canceled a whole hell of a long time ago. For what she did to that poor child, both of them, the 9-year-old and the 16-year-old. I mean, are you scared of 40-year-old women? Is that why you keep bullying children? Because a real woman's gonna check you and check you good. Is that why? Because I mean, why aren't you coming for anyone over the age of 18? I mean, except for Donald Trump. Yes, we know you hate him, blah, blah, blah. Yes, so does a lot of people. But to have done that so heinously, And the fact that there was a Vox article, it was an expose on Chrissy. And when I tell you this was the most softball expose I have ever seen, and I couldn't understand why until I read in little comments how John Legend is on the board of Vox. And then it made sense. Did such a softball expose. They never one time mentioned that Chrissy called Quavenzhane Wallis the C word. Not once. It was one or two little tiny sentences about how she was not nice to her. And she was not nice. And then they moved on real quick. So, yeah. And then they had the nerve to say, oh, this is rich. Then they said that everyone was doing it. Everybody. Back in the 2000s, everyone was bullying. Everyone was bullying this Courtney Stodden girl. Excuse me?
Squeeze me.
I was alive in the 2000s, baby. Everybody was not bullying that girl, okay? There were some people who chose to have some integrity and high standards. There were people who had high self-esteem and chose to leave that child alone and knew that a 16-year-old marrying a 52-year-old man meant that there was something out of her control being handled. And so they did not blame her. Okay. So no, everybody was not bullying Stodden. Okay. That's number one. Number two, it reminds me, and I know Black people, we love to bring up slavery, but it reminds me of when people keep saying that slavery, it was of the time. It was of the time. No. There were a lot of Quakers and abolitionists, and there was a lot of people during that time. Okay. So no, there were a lot of people in the 2000s who had compassion for that child, and they did not bully her. No, that was Chrissy and them. Okay. That was Chrissy and them. So keep it there. So, that's really one last thing that I would like to say, just to get to the heart of the kind of personality that Chrissy has, that I feel is not about someone who just makes mistakes, but is just a core, like moral center, the core. It's a personality trait. I remember she tweeted, this was back in 2014. I always have a note in my pocket that says, John did it, just in case I'm murdered, because I don't want him to remarry. Hashtag true love. Hashtag tips. This is a woman, a non-Black woman, making a joke about framing a Black man for murder because she loves him so much that even in death, when she cannot be with him, she would prefer for him to be in prison with the horrible, terrible things that go on in prison. And y'all know what I'm talking about. She would rather him endure that than find happiness with another person. I would like you to really think on that. Like, to even joke about that shows someone's character. And I'm going to end with that. So now let's get on to Kamala, your favorite Vice President Harris. Well, Kamala. Kamala is another person who I have not been a huge fan of. Y'all will hear more about this later, but I grew up in California, so I know very well about her record in California, and it's not favorable, particularly in regard to Black people. But she finally showed her hand. I mean, it did not take long. I mean, we're talking, this is June 2021. This woman just got sworn in January. And she is showing she's showing y'all both her butt cheeks. She said, immigrants, do not come. Okay? Y'all immigrants, the same people who voted her in, the ones that cannot, still supported her. The ones in India, in Jamaica, in Mexico, and Guatemala, all of y'all were riding the Kamala train. And now, not even 6 months later, she has turned her back. And a lot of people are saying, we told you so. So, I think that this is not even the beginning. You just wait. We got about 3.5 more years. You have not even seen what she is capable of. What I saw she is capable of in California, what she did to Black men, keeping them in prison longer than they had to, arresting Black women who their children were in the hospital sick. They weren't truant, but they were arrested anyway. And she never acknowledged that was an error. You're going to see. You're going to see. And I'm going to be right there, smiling. Because I know so many people love her. They love the tokenism. They love what she stands for. But she ain't the one, baby. She's not the one to take us where we have to go. And that's all that I'm going to say for today. Thank you so much. But you know what? If you don't agree with me, please tell me in the chat. Let me know. I mean, I don't have to have people who agree with everything I say. And if you do agree with me, then please let me know. I would love to hear from you. All right, that's enough time for today, and I will talk to you later. Bye.